As the first man in my daughter's lives, I knew that I was the model for manhood in their little eyes. That put a lot of pressure on me to make sure that I was the best man that I could be. Now, by no means does that mean that I am now perfect. However, I did realize that I had work to do when they were young, and I needed to get to work if I was to actually model what a good man would be. And that had been my goal for them since they were small. Now, granted, I always wanted to be a good man, don't we all? But the reality is that we are all flawed in some way. And my daughter's birth, both of them, really motivated me to take ownership of that to yet another level. And that is something that I take seriously. We are the dads, we are the models, so we have to own that. And that's where I challenge you as dads to step up, own it, be real, be raw, be vulnerable with them without being jerks. Our daughters need to know what to expect from their partners when they grow up. And what way are they going to do that if not through you, Dad? They need to know without a shadow of a doubt that these things that they may want in a partner are possible, being treated with respect and dignity, being loved, being cared for, being able to argue well. They need to know that that's even possible, and that's going to be through you. Anything that is outside of that is going to be out of the question. They're not going to settle as easily as many people do because they know that it's possible. They need to know what humility feels like. They need to know that all this is possible. This is a very long-winded introduction into this conversation that I had with my daughter's boyfriend. But I wanted to set the context for it all because in a manner of speaking, my daughter chose someone that must have resembled me in some way. I trust my daughter because I've been there for her. I've tried to hold her hand throughout her life to make sure that these things that I just pointed out earlier were real, were possible. So all that makes me realize that this young man has to mirror me in some way, and maybe in ways that I may not even be aware of. But that is the context that I'm trying to set up. This may be slightly controversial, but I chose to deliberately never use intimidation, shame, and fear in my parenting. And this has also been true as my daughter started to get older and started to find interest in little boys. I made it a point to never cast shame on them or make them feel bad because they like boys. If they brought it up, I just let it be. The purpose of that was to make sure that they would trust me because I didn't want them to be scared and introduce me to a boy or let me know that they're even interested. I wanted them to know that that was not something they had to worry about. Here's a realization I had when I was younger. A lot of the girls I dated weren't supposed to be dating me, weren't supposed to even be seeing me. And I think that's still even true. Dads forbid their daughters from dating boys until who knows when. That's great. If you rule your home with an iron hand and an iron fist, then so be it. But there's some reality to it all because kids were going to do what they're told not to do, especially as it relates to dating and seeing others like that. They have hormones running through their bodies. And if you remember when you were that age, you probably did some things that you probably shouldn't have been doing. And we're hiding it. We're sneaking around. My thought is if I am at least honest with them and try not to shame them and shut it down and insist that they not even be interested in boys or date boys until who knows when, my hope is that they would actually trust me with that information, that they would come to me if they had questions, that they would not hide. Because hiding it all would be even worse for me. That leaves too much room for things to be done that could lead to bigger issues. So I just chose to take this route. I never try to threaten them or tell them I'm going to have a gun or have all the family there to scare the shit out of him. It just wasn't something that I thought was beneficial given everything that I've seen in my life. I needed to do a better job and be a better communicator and understand the reality of the entire situation. All right, so my daughter's 19 now. She has a boyfriend. All my impressions of him have been positive. He's even a fan of mine. He's said really good, nice things about me even before they were dating. A year, 2 years passed. He had verbally said some things to both of my girls because they knew each other in school and spoke highly of me. So there's this respect. And it wasn't just because they became a couple. This is actually something that he had verbalized way in the past. So it was pretty neat. There was a healthy respect and understanding. Come over to that house. He was real cool, really seemed down to earth. But, you know, we're around a bunch of people, family and friends, to make it less intimidating, and it was cool. I like the kid. There's something about him that I appreciated, and I could see what my daughter, I started getting hints of what my daughter saw in him. So I insisted, I told my daughter that I had to meet with him and sit down one on one. Frankly, just so we can just talk bluntly without a bunch of people hovering around. And also so we can remove that awkwardness as much as possible, because I wanted him to know me as a human being. And I wanted to see him in the eyes, look him in the eyes, shake his hand, ask tough questions, and have him ask me anything that he wanted as well. She agreed to it. He agreed to it. Everything was great. Funny thing though is I shared this on my social media, on my Facebook, and I have a lot of people, a lot of friends that follow me there. And one of my friends actually said that if her dad had proposed this, there was no way that she would allow it. But then she said she does realize that I'm different and that I'm probably going to handle myself differently. I would imagine that part of the reason for that is because her father probably was more on the intimidation side, more on the casting fear and threatening side. That was not my approach, but I know that that's common. So we sit down, we have a conversation, and it literally was a bro date. The idea was to get to know each other better. And I wanted him to know who I was, but also wanted him to be able to speak to me in a much more calm manner and not fearful. I know that he's not scared of me per se, because he knows that I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I want him to come into my home and speak freely, speak to me as a man. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about life, business, sex, relationships, contraception. We talked about a little of everything. We had a great conversation. I really, really got a sense for him, and I did understand what my daughter saw in him. And as weird as it sounds, there was elements of myself in him. He's a good man with good intentions. And I told him, I don't see you as my enemy. I don't see you as someone taking my girl away from me. She chose you. And at the same time, I understand that things could fall apart, but make sure if that were to happen, you handle it like a man, you own up to the issues, and you break up with dignity. As dads, and we want to have all this respect, and we want to be seen as much more important. We want to get the same spotlight that the moms do. And although we may not get the parades or all the flashy lights that the moms do, we are very, very important. It's been proven through scientific studies. It's been proven through time. Just look around. We all have issues with our dads, and hopefully some of those issues are positive. Guys, your daughters will eventually grow up. Your sons will eventually grow up, and they will have families. You need to own up as dads, as fathers, and start modeling that behavior for them. Just shutting them down and insisting that they never date is preposterous, because in 20 or 30 years, you're going to want to have a grandchild, as I said earlier. I'm not suggesting that you talk to sex to your daughters when they're 3 or 4 or 5. But I'm suggesting that you do talk to them about sex when they're 15, 16, 17, when they're much older. And you talk about it in a dignified way, in an honest way, and not use shame and fear around it. Especially during that age, they got the hormones pumping through them. Remember, they will look to you for direction. They will look to you for support. And if you make it a shameful thing for them to go out into the world and be adult, then they're not going to trust you. Trust is the absolute most important thing that you need to nurture throughout this entire process. Trust is everything in the world. And there's another video coming for that alone, but you need to make sure that throughout every phase of your daughters and your sons' lives, whoever, they trust you. If things fall apart at any point, it's because they stopped trusting you. Trust just went out the window. They will no longer trust that you will be there for them in a way that they feel valued and appreciated for who they want to be. This meeting with the young man went really well. He went home and later told my daughter that he had never had a conversation like that with another adult. So there's that. I recognize that I am also mentoring him in a sense. If he's not having these adult conversations, then he's going to have to stumble his way through them. So if I can somehow have these conversations about life, about money, about finances and business, artistic aspirations, if I can somehow help him, then it will only benefit my daughter. He's not having them right now. And it's not to make anyone feel bad about it. It's just because it is the way it is. As a young man, you don't know that you can ask these questions or these conversations can even be had. So I felt good. I felt really good about the conversation. I felt really good about meeting up with him. And look forward to continuing this relationship and developing it for the foreseeable future. My daughter really loves him, and I love the kid. He seems like a really good young man who's been there for my daughter. He's already shown signs of doing really altruistic things for my other daughter. Like, the kid seems really good. And I can't help but feel really good that my daughter would choose him because he has shown nothing but class. And for that, I can't help but think that maybe she has been paying attention and she sees what's possible, and she chose someone that met those qualifications and met those standards that I set for her. Thank you for watching today's episode. I really appreciate your time and your energy. If you enjoyed this episode, then you might enjoy this one, where I talk about being a man and showing up for our daughters in some of the most bloody situations possible. Their period. So click on that to watch it. And until next time, bye-bye.